Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I don't think anyone's ever called me smart before, so that means a lot to me. And when I was looking at all the other speaker profile pictures, I really thought I need a better one. That's clearly taken with a selfie in my office, I think during the pandemic. So it's a real pleasure to be here today. I am a neonatologist, very much clinical working, and I've been on service all this week in my unit in Swindon. And that means that this week I've had some antenatal conversations with women about breast milk ahead of their preterm birth. It means I've been talking to women immediately after birth about the importance of early expressing. I'm really happy to say I've also discharged some babies home this week exclusively breastfeeding, which just feels like the most incredible achievement by these families. I am going to talk really about how do we create the change. You've heard so much compelling reasons why we need change today, and I suspect knew a lot of the reasons, a lot of the evidence for the benefits of breast milk and why we need to improve. So I want to talk about how we try and do that. Anybody got that fantastic book, if you're in person here today, that we got given, the Iceberg is Melting and the Penguin book? And that's about how to implement change, because it's really difficult. And as Daniela just intimated, it isn't about necessarily releasing a new guideline or even releasing our toolkits. How do we get them into practice, every baby, every time, in every centre? And I don't have all the answers, but I will share some experience from the work that we've been doing in the UK. So I stand here as me here in front of you, but really I'm representing a huge group of people who've been working on these toolkits for the last 3 years throughout the pandemic, all in their own time, all working for free, absolutely fantastic people. And actually they've contributed quite a lot into this talk. So I would really like to thank all of them. They're just amazing people, and I'm sure you'll see some familiar names on that list. I also just wanted to highlight something that BAPM's working on a lot at the moment, and that's about inclusive language. Because sometimes when we talk about mothers or mums or breastfeeding, that actually sometimes excludes some people. And so I just want you to take a little note of some of the terminology here, but when I talk in the rest of the talk, I will use the words breastfeeding and usually mother. So this is the first of two quite amazing British people I'm going to talk about in today's talk. And this was a statement made a really, really long time ago. And you've heard today from a couple of earlier speakers that actually breastfeeding isn't just about improving the outcomes for babies. This is a huge financial benefit, a big investment. But why aren't we doing it enough? Because we definitely are not. And I'm going to show you some of the UK data. It's not nice. So I want to talk a little bit about the optimization context. Because for me, maternal breast milk, and you'll notice this is all focused on preterm infants, maternal breast milk is a core part of their optimization journey. It's a crucial part of the way that we improve survival and improve outcomes. I will talk a little bit about where we are at in the UK at the moment, what's happening. I won't cover too much of the evidence because I think that's been well covered already. I will tell you about the toolkits from BAPM, but equally feel free to Google them and have a look at them. I then will talk a little bit about QI methodology. So this is where we get to the how do you create change. And I will share with you a really personal story. And I hope that resonates with you. We've heard a lot of big discussions today about government initiatives, policies, and I think these are really crucial, but sometimes I think creating change is about those small stories and taking this one step at a time. So let's start with the preterm perinatal optimization context. And most of what I'm going to show you will be European or UK data. So I think it's really important to remember that for the babies who are born early, that remains the leading cause of cerebral palsy globally. It remains the leading cause of child death globally. And I remember when I first read the statement that the WHO thought that we might be able to prevent 3/4 of those deaths with simple, cost-effective interventions, I thought, well, I wonder whether that's more in the developing world. I was wrong. There are so many cost-effective interventions, clearly maternal breast milk is one, that we don't do often enough. So in the UK, this is data from a few years ago, but we have the highest infant mortality rate in Western Europe. And I suspect there are many delegates online from different countries shown on this graph. We have a huge disparity within that. So in some of our least deprived areas of the UK, our infant mortality is similar to that of our colleagues in Sweden and Finland. Equally, in our most deprived areas, it's much, much, much higher. So BAPM's been working on this concept of the perinatal optimization pathway. Here, today, we're talking about breast milk, but I'd be really keen that we no longer look at single interventions in isolation. I would argue that preterm babies need the whole care pathway to give them the best chance. So that's lots of elements of antenatal optimization. It's things that, if you work in the neonatal arena, you'd have been really familiar with: antenatal steroids, magnesium. You can see maternal breast milk there, optimal cord management, so waiting 60 seconds before we clamp the cord. And I think what frustrated me about when we made this diagram was maternal breast milk came at the end, and it looks like it's a postnatal intervention. That is wrong. The intervention starts very much in the antenatal period. So I've put it there starting around the time you're thinking about giving the mum magnesium or antenatal steroids. But I think in a lot of the women who give birth preterm are actually pretty high-risk women. They were identified well before that time. So I would argue it should start perhaps even sooner. But that pathway sits, the responsibility for delivering that whole pathway sits within the context of the perinatal team. So this is not the responsibility of lactation consultants. This isn't the responsibility of midwives. This is the responsibility of obstetricians who need to be talking to women when they admit them at risk of preterm delivery. With the second part of the toolkit, we then took it further. So we've had some fantastic talks about the initiation of lactation, but also recognizing that the journey does not end there. And actually, with the dose-dependent relationship we have with breast milk and outcomes, we need to continue that well beyond discharge from the neonatal unit. So where are we at currently in the UK? And this is one of my colleagues from the Breast Milk Toolkits slides from the West Midlands. And it's describing that concept that Rebecca was just so passionately and eloquently describing to you, the concept that breast milk is a magic pill in neonatal care. How, what else is there that has such a wide-ranging and huge impact? And that this is personalised and precision medicine for the baby. So this is a really busy slide. It's one of the infographics taken from the toolkit, summarising just a few of the benefits of breast milk. And we found that this was one of the most downloaded and printed and put up on the walls of delivery suites infographics, because sometimes the message isn't clear. There's still the nice message that breast is best, and it's a nice thing to do, but not the absolute life-changing impact of breast milk, particularly for our preterm population. And I won't linger too long on this, because I think we've seen that this is true across North America, it's true across Europe, very true for the NHS in the UK. We could save millions and millions of pounds and hundreds of deaths. We have a national neonatal audit programme in the UK, and it collects data on every single baby admitted to neonatal care in England and Wales, and for some periods of time, Scotland. And what this programme has been able to show as one of its many different outputs is that breast milk at day 14 really does correlate with the incidence of NEC. So that's what the science suggests, but isn't it nice to see the impact in real live data? But how are we doing at breast milk at day 14? Not bad. So in 2021, 80% of preterm babies in the NNAP project received breast milk, some of their mother's breast milk at day 14. But that drops quite significantly to breast milk at discharge. I was quite envious at some of the figures, around 75 to 80% that were being talked about earlier, because we sit well below that. But the really depressing thing is we don't seem to be getting any better. You can see the data between 2013 and 2021 were not really improving. And then the problem after that really is there's no good way to measure what happens next. And there aren't many studies which are really showing us how many of those babies still keep feeding. But some of the indicators seem to suggest it's very few of them. So we really, really have work to do. And we've had a number of national reports saying we really, really need to sort this out within the UK. So let me tell you about what we've been doing with the breast milk toolkits. The whole goal of the toolkits are focused on babies born at less than 34 weeks, but we recognise that implementation of the principles might well help lots of other babies, such as the late preterm babies, sick term babies. And what we wanted to do was really provide a very powerful evidence base and really support people to look at their data and to understand where the problem is and use the data to drive change. So we've got two toolkits. The first one is a perinatal toolkit. And it really focuses on 5 early elements. So it's really thinking about the parents as partners in care, the importance of really clear antenatal education, I will come back to that, really early expressing, breast milk going into the baby within ideally 6 hours of birth and always within 24 hours. And this is doable. We started work on, in my own unit in this in 2017. We had an average time to breast milk for our sub-34-week population of around 60 hours, and we're now well below 6 hours on an average, and hopefully usually within about an hour. That really supports the early expressing because suddenly the milk is going into the baby, so it must be needed. Lots of focus on early skin to skin. The second toolkit is then, after we've established that, what do we do next? How do we support transition to oral feeding? How do we respond to challenges? And how do we support breastfeeding after discharge? So I think that parents as partners in care can't be overestimated. And a lot of this is really difficult sometimes because when we're thinking about supporting parents, I've definitely heard midwives say, I don't want to bother the mum, she needs to rest, so I'm going to not take the pump in just yet. Or I don't want to have some of the conversations with her about breast milk because she's just been through this hugely traumatic preterm delivery and I don't want to put pressure on her. Parents often say that's not true and that's rubbish. They just want the knowledge and the support. So this is the national breast milk leaflet that we've had. It's based on some work in the Southwest, and we've just updated it. But it's about the consistent messaging. So it's trying to kind of bust some of those myths, if you like, that the body can't make milk yet because the baby's been born early, or it's early and it's sick, so it doesn't need milk yet. And it's just trying to change the language around not necessarily talking about long-term breastfeeding, but the early provision of milk for your baby. The second part of the toolkit, as I said, really moves through the rest of the neonatal journey and through to discharge and beyond. And really an opportunity to try and support people to change some of the cultural challenges. So I know in my own unit that in our intensive care room, we have 100% initiation pretty much. So it's very, very rare. And then it just drops. And there's something that's happening. And sometimes I can hear your baby's likely to get home sooner if you offer a bottle. or actually it might be easier to monitor how much your baby's taking in a bottle. And again, myths like that really aren't borne out by the evidence. So it's trying to build those blocks. And I know Annie, who was a fantastic member of the Toolkit group, is probably watching. But it's trying to support us from falling over at that final hurdle. We've put all the work in to initiate the breast milk journey. And we really need to continue the support right the way through till the end. Here's some of the other myths. I wonder whether any of you have heard those in your units. And it's really trying to tackle those with evidence and to change the culture, that it's just really no longer appropriate to be talking about this. And I love Annie's phrase that everyone needs to believe that this is possible. Okay, so how do we make these changes? The first thing is you have to understand why there's a problem. So let's think about early colostrum getting into babies. So what's the problem? Is it that your midwife team are so busy that no one's got any time to support mums? Or actually in one of the units, is it that the milk, that all the midwives working really hard, breast milk's come out and it's stored in the fridge and never given to baby? Where's the problem? So it's really about trying to understand where the problem is. And there's lots of different ways and tools you can use. Driver diagrams can be quite useful. So how do you achieve your aim? So you want to get more babies breastfed. Then what steps do you need to take to follow that? So there's lots of different methodology that you can use. Then it's trying to implement change and measuring whether that works and whether it helps. These are all the other toolkits that BAPM's got, but what we've released earlier this year, which completely underpins these, is how do you build a successful perinatal optimization team? Because it is an absolute key ingredient for success. We've got a national perinatal optimization pathway passport released earlier this year, which really tracks some of those interventions. And you can see there that early breast milk comes before delivery, the first part of that passport. And we have a parent-held version of the same passport. We've also got a whole host of these posters, and you can see the breast milk one there, and it's about, again, the clarity of the message and the importance and vital importance of early pumping within 2 hours of birth and how frequently the mums need to pump, and really about understanding the why. Okay, so I want to move on now and leave pictures of breast milk and pumps for a second and just talk about once we've decided we want to make a change. And I love coming to conferences because I make a list of things I want to change. And I've made 3 things today that I'm going to take home. And I've already texted my infant feeding lead about them. How do you do that? And here's the spoiler, it's not easy. It's like climbing a mountain. So I'm going to tell you a story about climbing a mountain. And it involves my son. So there he is. And when he was 9, he had already climbed the 3 biggest mountains in the UK. And he decided that he wanted to climb the Welsh 3000s. These are the 18 highest mountains in Wales. And he wanted to do it before he finished primary school, which is by the age of 10, 11. And I thought, well, that's fine. It's not like I have a busy job. Okay. And this felt an enormous goal. And I really do think that sometimes when we're trying to create change, it can feel like a real uphill battle. I think collectively, lots of us are still feeling exhausted 3 years on from the pandemic, and it can feel like an uphill battle. So there's my son. This is a mountain called Tryfan. It's really, really difficult and spiky, and it was really misty that day. And he said, I can't see the top. I don't think I'm ever going to get there. And I just remember thinking that's exactly how I felt on some of the QI work that I've been doing. So one thing that he taught me is that you just keep taking small steps, onwards and upwards. And he's really, really good at doing that. He needed, and I needed, to do quite a lot of planning for this. So let's say you're embarking on a journey to improve colostrum delivery to your babies. You're going to need some time to think about that and plan that. You might need resources, so he needed that cool new backpack. But you might need to find some charity funding for new breast pumps on your delivery suite. I think resources are really important, so I'm a big fan of funding people's time at unit level to deliver quality improvement. And that's not a popular viewpoint, but it really, really does help. One of the big things that he taught me on this journey, climbing mountains, is that it's about the people around you that make the difference. So, in your teams, is it actually the kind of people in a senior management position who do quality improvement within your hospital? I have found more commonly that it is the hugely passionate maternity support worker on my postnatal ward that has absolutely led change. So it's the people with the passion and the enthusiasm. They might have no QI training, they might have never seen a PDSA cycle in their lives. They will be the ones who will create, embed and sustain the change for you. They'll also keep you going when you're feeling like it's too hard. And my son is amazing at that. He always smiles when we're going up the mountains. And I think recruiting a big champion team to support breast milk provision in your unit is a really, really valuable thing to do. Sometimes it gets really scary. Yes, I know my husband hates looking at this picture too. He can't believe I did that with our son. Sometimes it's a big leap of faith. And I remember when somebody first said to me, will you chair the National Maternal Breast Milk Toolkit group? I just thought, that's too big a leap of faith. I don't think I can do that. But gradually I surrounded myself with amazingly passionate, inspirational people, and we did it. But the thing about having people along the journey with you is they will encourage you along that really, really scary bit. I almost wish in this picture that there was someone above him trying to knock him off. Clearly not my son. But that's what it can feel like, doesn't it? Sometimes you're trying to improve, and there's always people there telling you can't do this, it's not achievable, trying to knock you down. And that's where coaching, mentorship and support comes in. You might be the people that are helping your teams to improve. But the view from the top is always, always worth the climb. He has a T-shirt with that written on it now. So he did achieve the summits of all of the 18 mountains. And he did this incredible presentation at his primary school about determination, motivation, and perseverance. And I was like the proudest mother ever. But I just thought, goodness, I have so much to learn from my son. That's a picture of him on the final mountain, Ir Ellen, and the really scary Cribgoch Ridge up to Snowdon. And I think when you do see the change, when you measure the change and you see the rates of breast milk feeding or early colostrum provision go up, is absolutely fantastic. Or even just when you see a single case. So when I discharged a mother home this week, breastfeeding, view from the top, always, always worth the climb. And you have to remember that because sometimes it takes a really long time to climb up them. I think parent stories are really important, and they really do make the view from the top worth the climb. So if you've had a family you've had a mother go home exclusively breastfeeding, and you know that one of the maternity support workers really helped her on day one, is there a way we can feed that back? How do we value people's contribution to the improvement journey? And I think parent stories and feeding them back is just so, so powerful. But it also makes us wake up and realise we've got a problem sometimes when we listen to families. The second of my two amazing British people, really sad loss last year, but this phrase that she said really applies, I think, to quality improvement. It's about bringing people together, combining their efforts, their talents, their enthusiasm, so crucial, and their inspiration to work together. I'd really like to thank all of the Toolkit group, without whom I wouldn't be here today, and I look forward to taking questions as part of the panel discussion. Thank you so much.